Folks, it's barely started, and already it's a hot mess.
And this is the crowd that has gathered just in the past sort of half an hour or so. They arrived about 3:35. A lot of them were here because of the media.
It's a disaster in the making, Dan.
But the big crowd that they have seen today was at the Royal Children's Hospital. This was at lunchtime. There were hundreds of people.
I mean, I feel like we are mugs, Sophie. These guys are grifters par excellence. I call them the ginger and the whinger. There's no public-facing events. Everything's by invitation only. There's a couple of things, as you saw today at the Royal Children's Hospital, but that's just to give a bit of, froth and bubble out there for the media. Most of this is a commercial enterprise. It's to make money.
When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle landed in Australia, this was supposed to be a major comeback, a return to a place that once couldn't get enough of them. But from the very first moment, something felt off. There were no massive crowds waiting, no loud cheers, no wave of cameras, just a quiet arrival that didn't match the scale of the moment at all. Instead, they arrived low-key, almost unnoticed. They skipped the usual photo opportunities and moved quickly in a tight convoy. No stops, no engagement, no real interaction with the press. Everything felt controlled, carefully managed, like every step had been pre-planned down to the second.
Well, this is very much a non-royal royal tour. They are, of course, still to be named the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. However, it certainly doesn't have the same amount of pomp and ceremony that we saw when they last visited Australia in 2018.
Then came the moment that made people pause. Their first stop at a major hospital in Melbourne. You'd expect noise, excitement, at least some energy, but none of it came. The crowd didn't erupt. No wave of cheers followed, just a strange, heavy silence.
Why did you think you'd stop on your walk today?
Well, we're actually just on a quick lunchtime walk. We work around the corner, saw the crowd gathered, asked your video guy what's going on, and it's only so often that you stumble across elite ginger.
And then a soft, uncertain hi from a few voices. No chants, no applause, just hesitation. It was subtle, but it landed hard. In that moment, something shifted. It was clear the way people saw them had changed. This wasn't 2018, not even close.
Harry and Meghan, welcome to Australia. Welcome to Australia. What are you most looking forward to?
Everything. It's been great. Nice to be back.
Thank you.
Meghan, how does this make you feeling?
Oh, so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Back then, they were everywhere. Newly married, full of momentum, seen as the modern face of the monarchy. Crowds flooded the streets across Australia, people shouting their names, cameras firing nonstop, pure hype, pure obsession. Now, the atmosphere feels different, quieter, more cautious. And for some, like that excitement has completely faded. Because this isn't just another visit, it's happening after everything. After stepping away from royal duties in 2020, after the interviews, the fallout, the controversies, and the effort to rebuild themselves as independent figures. And that's where the tension starts to build. What exactly are they now? On the surface, it all looks familiar. Charity visits, hospital stops, meetings with community groups, just like their royal days. But this time, there's one key difference. This isn't an official royal tour, and it's not backed by the palace. And now there's something else attached, a price tag, and that shifts the entire tone instantly. The vibe changes completely.
If you want to see Harry, it's $2,000 for a seat. If you want to watch him online, it's about $500. If you go along to this ridiculously named wellness retreat, it's called Her Best Life Retreat with Meghan, it's going to cost you $3,000. I mean, I know what Australians think of it, but how's it going down with the punters in the UK?
Suddenly, it's not just about what they're doing, it's about why they're doing it at all. Critics are already raising eyebrows, asking direct questions. Is this still genuine service, or is it slowly turning into branding? Is this about helping people or building a business-driven image? That debate is getting louder with every new detail that comes out. This time, they didn't arrive with royal-level spectacle. No grand entrance, no dramatic rollout. Instead, they flew commercial. Business class on a Qantas flight from Los Angeles to Melbourne.
I spoke with quite a few of the passengers who came out into the arrivals area here at Melbourne Airport, and they said that they were really quite gobsmacked to have the Duke and Duchess on board their flight. This is what some of them had to say.
On the surface, it looked intentional, simple, even relatable. Some passengers praised the decision, especially choosing not to fly private. But not everyone saw it that way. For others, even flying commercial felt strategic. a calculated move to appear more down to earth, more relatable, more normal in the public eye.
Much more downgraded way of getting here. They arrived here just after 6:30 on a commercial jet.
I've never seen anybody look so refreshed getting off a flight from the US. He looked great. Prince Harry, yeah.
What about Meghan?
I didn't see her.
And at the same time, reports began surfacing about events linked to the visit costing thousands just to attend. That contrast, it's impossible to ignore. It hits immediately. And that's exactly why opinions are splitting so sharply. Some people were genuinely excited to see them on the flight. Passengers described friendly conversations, relaxed energy, and how unexpectedly casual everything felt.
Other people who were saying that they really respected the fact that they weren't obviously burning extra emissions by taking a private jet, and they were showing that they were one of the people. Some of the other passengers said that they were chatting to them about their kids and what they were going to be doing here, and they described them as being incredibly pleasant and very polite.
Inside the hospital, the atmosphere softened. Children smiled, families gathered, and for a brief moment, it felt warm again, almost familiar. The interactions came across as genuine, too. Meghan showed patience and care, while Harry shook hands, spoke naturally, and gave his time freely to those around him. They both paused for photos, listened closely, and focused their attention on the people in front of them, especially the children. Those moments felt real, simple, and human. But step outside those walls, and the tone shifts fast. Because while those emotional moments were happening inside, a completely different conversation was building outside.
And also, I think, as is typical with the fake Duchess, a lot of lies. A lot of lies designed to make us think that this is a success rather than the ultimate financial disaster which is coming because of a lack of ticket sale.
More and more people are starting to question what this visit actually represents. They are no longer active working royals. That decision was clear when they stepped away and chose a different path. So now the question keeps getting louder. Why does this still look like an official royal tour? Why does it feel like a royal visit without the role behind it? That question is everywhere, and it only intensifies when money enters the discussion.
It'll run to hundreds of thousands of dollars to look after them over these 4 days.
Because even though the trip is described as privately funded, reports suggest that some local security costs may still involve public resources. That detail has triggered serious backlash online, and it's spreading quickly. A petition opposing public spending tied to their protection has already gathered tens of thousands of signatures.
And as the couple touch down in one of the most beautiful countries in the world, they arrive in a land where they're not wanted, where there is a petition to prevent their visit. And with locals furious that they'll have to shoulder some of the cost of the couple's security.
That's not random noise. It's organized, it's growing, and it shows frustration building in real time. And it ties into a bigger narrative that has followed them for years. The idea that Harry and Meghan stepped away from the institution, but still operate under the same level of visibility. That they left the system, yet remain connected to the attention and advantages that come with it. Now this trip, with its charity stops, public appearances, and carefully structured events, sits in an unclear space. Not fully royal, not fully celebrity. Something in between. Something harder to define and harder to ignore. And for critics, that's exactly where the problem begins, because it opens the door to uncomfortable questions.
So if Harry and Meghan's trip to Australia was a dream in 2018, then in 2026, it's a horrible nightmare with controversy, anger, and recriminations around the visit.
Fast. Questions about authenticity, real intention, and whether this is truly about impact or simply about staying visible in a world that forgets quickly. That tension isn't subtle, it's everywhere. Inside a Melbourne hospital, Meghan is seen connecting warmly with patients, offering support in emotional moments that shape public perception. It feels personal, it feels sincere, and at the same time, it feels like every move is under a microscope. But step outside and the tone shifts sharply. Headlines lock on to one thing, the cost of security. That angle gets pushed front and center, keeping the pressure constant and unavoidable.
Australian people are as real as it gets, okay? Sometimes brutally so. They don't take any prisoners, the Australians. They take no nonsense, and they don't like fakes. And they don't like phonies.
Commentators are dissecting every move, while analysts openly question whether this visit is quietly evolving into a way to monetize royal association. That word, monetize, keeps surfacing again and again, and once it sticks, it changes how everything is seen. Suddenly, every appearance, every interaction, every carefully staged moment starts to feel more deliberate. Even that quiet, emotional scene inside the hospital begins to carry a different weight. It's no longer just about a muted crowd reaction. It starts to signal a broader shift in public perception, less untouchable royalty, more like public figures navigating an identity that doesn't fully fit anywhere. And the deeper this visit goes, the louder that question becomes, who are they now, really? Because whatever the answer is, this trip to Australia could be the moment where things finally sharpen into focus.
Now, leading figures in the Australian media that I've spoken to have described this trip as a new low for Harry. They're not happy. They've said that the trip is going to backfire horribly. Australia are not happy at all.
What began as a quiet arrival is becoming more layered with each passing day. Inside a busy Melbourne hospital, you see one version of the story. Calm, emotional, controlled interactions between public figures and patients. It feels measured, almost carefully balanced. But outside those walls, a completely different narrative is taking shape in real time. Inside, it looks like compassion and genuine connection. Harry moves through the crowd with ease, stopping frequently to speak with patients, even lowering himself to their level to connect more directly. He asks about their care, their lives, their personal journeys. There's a natural rhythm in how he carries himself. It doesn't feel forced. It comes across like instinct built over years inside the royal system, like someone who knows exactly how to operate in these spaces and how to connect without overplaying it. He looks comfortable, like he still belongs in this world, someone who understands how to speak without pressure, how to listen without rushing. Nothing feels out of place. It feels familiar, almost automatic.
So when you work in the media, you watch someone's camera awareness. I think Harry's there at the hospital genuinely in the moment. She knows exactly where the camera is. I mean, she is an actress. She's working the angles. It's all fake smiles. You can read it, can't you?
Meghan, meanwhile, leans fully into the emotional side of the visit. She doesn't keep distance. She steps in, hugging children, holding their hands, speaking softly with words meant to encourage and uplift, telling them to stay strong and keep moving forward. At one point, a young patient hands Harry flowers, and in another moment, Meghan tells a child to keep being brave. These are the moments that stay with people, simple, human, and difficult to dismiss. And yet, the criticism doesn't fade, because as the visit continues, separating those genuine moments from the wider context becomes harder and harder. The picture grows more complicated by the minute. After leaving the hospital, Meghan doesn't step away into privacy. Instead, she moves straight into another carefully selected setting, a women's shelter in Melbourne supporting those facing homelessness and serious hardship. There, she puts on an apron and gets involved immediately. Serving food, moving through the kitchen, helping prepare meals, smiling, blending into the environment as if she's part of it. It's active, hands-on, and visually striking. On the surface, it hits hard. A former royal figure working in a shelter kitchen, preparing meals for vulnerable women. It sends a clear message of care and connection. It's the kind of image people instantly respond to. But there's another layer that keeps resurfacing. Because while she's working in that kitchen, she's also wearing a designer outfit reportedly worth over $1,000. And just like that, the message shifts again. It becomes more complex, more debated, harder to read at face value. On one side, she appears grounded and approachable. On the other, still closely tied to luxury, fashion, and high-end branding. That contrast is sharp, and people are noticing. The tension between accessibility and privilege keeps growing louder.
What Australians are saying about Harry and Meghan, and saying that they are grifters. That's the reporting in Australia, and that they are using the country like an ATM. They're watching what the media down under are saying with a lot of interest.
It's no longer just about what they're doing. It's about how every detail is being interpreted. Every moment is examined, broken down, and judged from multiple angles. Nothing goes unnoticed. Because while those images spread, Meghan in the kitchen, Harry engaging with children, another reality unfolds just steps away. And in that version, access isn't free. It's bought. Tickets are being sold and prices climb into the thousands, not just for entry, but for proximity, closer access, deeper involvement, more exclusivity. That detail alone is turning heads fast. The upcoming wellness retreat in Sydney isn't framed as a casual gathering.
Although I'm not going to call it a tour, okay? They're not here formally as guest of government. They're not working royals. We know that now. This is a 4-day commercial venture to milk money out of Australians.
It's presented as a high-end luxury experience built around exclusivity, a carefully curated environment centered heavily around Meghan herself. Attendees are expected to pay thousands just to take part. Yoga sessions, guided manifestation, sound healing practices, and something less tangible but heavily marketed. A sense of closeness to the brand. And that word, brand, is carrying serious weight right now, because what's unfolding in Australia no longer feels like a traditional public visit. It feels structured, intentional, and carefully mapped from start to finish. There's a growing sense that every stop, every appearance, every event feeds into a larger system, one that blends visibility with commercial strategy. It doesn't come across as casual presence. It feels like a coordinated production. Even Prince Harry's role fits into that same evolving pattern. He's not showing up as a working royal. That chapter is closed. Instead, he steps in as a speaker and advocate, focusing on mental health and workplace well-being, positioning himself in a clearly different lane.
Duke is not welcome in Australia, and that in fact, the Australian people don't like Harry and they don't like Meghan. The direct quote, "Australians hate being used, and that's what these two proven troublemakers are doing."
On paper, it aligns perfectly with the causes he's supported for years. At first glance, it feels consistent and logical. But there's another layer that people are starting to examine more closely. Because his appearances aren't just talks. They're part of structured events with paid access tiers. Different levels, different pricing, different experiences depending on how much someone is willing to spend just to be in the room. And that detail shifts perception completely. It reframes the entire context. So the same question keeps returning, louder each time. Where does service end and where does business begin? Because that line is becoming harder and harder to define. And people aren't staying quiet. They're reacting in real time, calling it out, debating it, pushing it across public conversations without hesitation. As the visit continues, so does the pushback. Concerns around security funding are only intensifying. Even though the trip is described as privately funded, reports suggest local authorities are still involved in safety and logistics. For many watching, that raises immediate tension. Why should public resources, even indirectly, be used to support individuals who no longer hold official royal roles? That question has clearly struck a nerve. An online petition opposing the use of public funds has now passed 45,000 signatures. And that number carries weight. It signals more than casual criticism. It reflects growing frustration, real doubt, and a sense among some that the situation doesn't fully align with how it's being presented.
We want those good headlines. We know Harry is in court with his former charity centre Barley. This is a PR exercise to try and repair their very badly damaged reputation.
That gap between image and reality is where much of the criticism is building. And this conversation isn't staying within the public. It's spreading into media analysis and expert commentary. Commentators, analysts, and royal watchers are becoming more direct, more pointed in their assessments. Some openly suggest that this visit marks a strategic shift in Harry and Meghan's post-royal trajectory, a move towards something more structured, more controlled, and more closely tied to long-term positioning. A shift that leans away from traditional service and toward visibility shaped by monetization. That's how some are framing it now. And they're not softening that claim anymore. They're saying it outright. The idea being debated is simple but sharp. They are leveraging the identity they once stepped away from. Because even without official roles or duties, that connection still holds power. It still opens doors, still attracts attention, still fills seats, and keeps demand high. And that's where things become complicated, quickly. In Australia, that dynamic is unfolding in real time, almost in plain sight. Every appearance, every speech, every carefully structured event seems to exist between two spaces: public service and commercial opportunity. And that overlap is exactly what keeps the debate alive. Because even without being stated directly, the system around these events still benefits from recognition, status, and the attention tied to their past roles. And once that link is active, separating it becomes difficult.
Harry, who has sparked outrage in particular, with a tour which is considered cynical, dishonest and insulting to Australians as Harry and Meghan head to the new world to revive their flagging fortunes and to revive their flagging reputation.
Right now in Australia, that tension is everywhere. From hospital visits to the women's shelter, from mental health discussions to the luxury retreat, it all starts to connect. Each moment links to the next. Nothing stands alone anymore. Every appearance feeds into a broader narrative unfolding in real time, right in front of the public. It builds an image of relevance, an image of purpose, but also an image of opportunity. And that's exactly why reactions are so divided. For some, they're still doing meaningful work. They show up, engage directly, highlight important causes, and create moments that feel personal and impactful. For others, it lands very differently. It feels staged, carefully curated, almost too polished, like every moment is designed not just to help, but to be seen helping, captured helping, remembered helping. And that's where the tension hits hardest. In a media environment where perception moves faster than facts, that difference becomes critical. Because authenticity is no longer assumed, it's questioned, analyzed, and challenged at every step.
The Duke and Duchess have stressed this tour is self-funded. There's been a lot of debate about who might pay for any police involvement. Blake, today I have seen no police accompanying them. They're in 2 private vehicles getting around town.
It's being questioned nonstop. And nowhere is that clearer than in the small, subtle details people are starting to notice. The little things are beginning to speak louder than the big moments. The way crowds respond, the way excitement sometimes fades into quiet observation, that shift doesn't slip past anyone. Even a simple greeting, that soft, slightly awkward moment, can carry more weight than loud cheers ever could. Because that silence, it's not empty, it's filled with uncertainty. Uncertainty about who they are now, uncertainty about what they actually represent, uncertainty about whether this story still holds the same meaning it once did. People want to believe the way they did before, but something feels different now and it's becoming harder to ignore. As the Australian visit moves from city to city, event to event, that feeling only intensifies. The deeper you look, the clearer the contradictions become. Right out in the open, compassion and commerce, connection and calculation, service and strategy, all of it unfolding at once, blending into a complex picture playing out live in front of everyone. And it all keeps circling back to one question that refuses to disappear. Why? Why now? Why this kind of tour? Why in this format, at this moment, in this setting? And more importantly, what are they trying to become through all of this?
It's their first time here since 2018. Very different world for them now. They are no longer royals. They're no longer working royals. They're not addressed as His and Her Royal Highness anymore. They live in California. So a very different memory they will have from when they were here in Melbourne last time.
By the time the Australian tour reaches its final stretch, the conversation has moved far beyond actions or appearances. It's no longer surface level. It cuts deeper. Now it's about meaning, about direction, about identity, and whether the public is still willing to interpret everything the way it's being presented. Every stop adds another layer to that same growing question. It builds pressure on top of pressure until it becomes impossible to ignore. Are they still tied to the idea of royalty in the public mind? Or have they fully transitioned into something else entirely? That's what people are trying to figure out. On the surface, everything appears tightly structured and purpose-driven. Their schedule is packed, organized down to the minute, moving from one engagement to the next with precision. One moment, they're inside a major hospital in Melbourne, sitting with patients facing serious health challenges, speaking calmly, listening closely, offering time and attention that feels direct and personal. The next moment, they're in community spaces, visiting support organizations, attending events focused on mental health awareness and veteran well-being programs. And just like that, the pace continues, the image builds, and the questions grow louder. Each appearance is designed to send a message of service, relevance, and presence.
First engagement tomorrow is an event for Movember. They'll be at Whitten Oval, also some Bulldogs players there. That's the first thing they have tomorrow morning.
And for some observers, that message lands exactly as intended, clear and convincing. But for others, it doesn't fully settle. Something feels unresolved, like there's another layer beneath the surface that can't be ignored. Because surrounding those same carefully structured moments is a parallel layer that keeps reappearing, no matter how the story is framed. You see Meghan Markle in organized community environments, moving through service-based settings, engaging with staff, presenting herself in spaces meant to signal humility and connection. At the same time, Prince Harry steps into mental health discussions, positioned as a leading voice on workplace well-being and emotional resilience, speaking with confidence, shaping conversations, reinforcing a clear role in that space. But underneath all of that, there's another structure pulling attention, one that people are not overlooking. Ticketed appearances, paid retreats, high-cost access events, exclusive experiences that aren't equally available to everyone. Access defined by pricing tiers, levels, and how much someone is willing to pay to be included. A wellness retreat in Sydney, linked to Meghan, reportedly costing thousands, built around curated wellness sessions and guided experiences. And a conference appearance by Harry tied to structured access, where pricing levels determine proximity, interaction, and overall experience. It's this dual structure that defines the entire tour, and it's exactly what keeps the debate alive. Because while the public sees emotional moments, meaningful interactions, community engagement, and conversations around well-being, they also see something else forming underneath it all. A system, a framework, a carefully constructed public identity evolving in real time, right in front of everyone watching, and that's where the tension becomes impossible to ignore. Because when everything is stripped back and examined closely, the question is no longer just whether positive work is being done. It becomes more layered, more complex, and far harder to answer in simple terms.
This is absolutely hideous. The Sussex's money-grabbing fake royal trip to Australia is already a hot mess. It's a public relations dumpster fire. It is a disaster.
It turns into a question of separation. Are those visible emotional moments standing independently, or are they connected to something larger behind the scenes? Something coordinated, intentional, and tied to financial opportunity? That's the question critics keep pushing, and they're not holding back. In fact, the language surrounding this visit has become sharper and far more direct over time. Terms like quasi-royal tour are appearing more frequently, alongside arguments that their former royal status is still being used as a form of global influence, even without official roles. Some commentators go even further, suggesting that this kind of influence naturally translates into major commercial potential. Whether through speaking engagements, branded wellness events, or carefully curated public experiences, the opportunity is massive. And that's exactly where the controversy keeps building. Because even now, that past identity still holds power. It still captures attention, still draws crowds, still fills rooms. And in Australia, that dynamic is visible across every layer of this visit. From structured engagements to high-profile appearances, from community outreach to premium access events, it's all unfolding at once, and that framing changes everything. It reshapes how each moment is interpreted in real time. A hospital visit no longer reads as just a hospital visit. It begins to look like part of a broader narrative strategy. A charity appearance stops being just charity. It turns into positioning, image building, something more deliberate in the public eye.
Not thinking that the royal couple was going to be coming in on just a commercial airlines, on a Qantas flight, but actually taking a private jet. But it was QF94.
Even something as simple as walking through a crowd gets dissected, analyzed, and reinterpreted from every possible angle. That's the environment they're operating in now. A space where nothing feels neutral anymore. Not actions, not distance, not even silence. And that silence, it's one of the loudest elements of this entire visit. Because it's not about what's being said, it's about what's left unsaid. The quiet receptions, the restrained reactions, the missing surge of energy that once followed them everywhere, it stands out immediately, especially when compared to 2018, when they were newly married, still active working royals, and widely seen as a defining symbol of the monarchy's future. Back then, the atmosphere felt unstoppable, loud, electric, overflowing with excitement from every direction. Crowds packed the streets, voices echoed, cameras flashed nonstop. It was a completely different reality. Now, the tone has shifted. It feels more controlled, more measured, and at times noticeably hesitant. That shift alone tells a story without needing any added explanation. and it leaves one question lingering wherever they go. If public perception has changed this much, what does that mean for the identity they're trying to shape now? Because one thing is undeniable. They are still actively shaping that identity. Every engagement on this tour feeds into that process. Every carefully selected location adds another layer to the image they're constructing. Every speech, every interaction, every headline becomes part of a larger design. A version of themselves that exists outside the monarchy, outside the institution that once defined their public life, but still influenced by it in ways that are difficult to fully escape. And that's where the contradiction sits. They are no longer working royals. That separation has been clearly stated. They stepped away, created distance, chose independence, and moved in a different direction. And yet, the language surrounding them hasn't fully let go. They are still referred to by their titles, still framed through royal history, still measured against the institution they left behind. That connection hasn't disappeared. It continues to shape how they are seen, whether intentionally or not. And that tension between past identity and present positioning is what keeps this entire visit under intense scrutiny. Because at its core, this isn't just about Australia, it's about identity, it's about perception, it's about who actually controls the narrative. And in today's global media landscape, control is never stable. It shifts constantly, moving from one angle to another, changing in real time. That's why every moment of this trip feels amplified beyond its surface meaning. Every handshake, every speech, every quiet or restrained crowd reaction, it all feeds into something bigger. Even the smallest details, a soft greeting in a hospital corridor, a brief remark about being back, can become part of a much larger narrative. A narrative that no longer belongs entirely to them. And then there's the financial layer, the part that keeps intensifying the debate. Despite repeated claims that the trip is privately funded, reports suggesting involvement of public safety resources have kept tensions high. The idea that taxpayers could still be indirectly contributing to security arrangements has sparked visible frustration. An online petition has already gathered tens of thousands of signatures, and that number carries meaning. It reflects more than disagreement. It signals organized pushback and growing pressure that isn't fading anytime soon. And in this context, that pushback isn't just about cost, it's about meaning. It raises a deeper question about whether this kind of visit should still be connected in any way to public responsibility or official expectation at all. And the pattern keeps repeating. Every appearance brings praise and criticism at the exact same time. Every emotional moment is instantly met with skepticism. Every attempt to connect is followed by questions about motive. And beneath it all, one question keeps growing louder and harder to ignore. Are Harry and Meghan still part of a story people genuinely believe in? Or are they now performing a version of something that once defined them? Because as the Australian tour moves into its final stretch, there's no clean resolution waiting at the end. No single moment that ties everything together. No clear answer that settles the debate once and for all. What remains instead is something far more complex. The space they occupy now isn't simple. It's layered, shifting, not fully royal, not fully celebrity, something in between that's still evolving, still contested, still being interpreted in real time. And maybe that's exactly why this visit stands out so strongly, because it's no longer just a tour. It's turned into something bigger. It's a mirror, reflecting not only who they are trying to present themselves as, but also how the world is choosing to see them in return. So now the question isn't just about them, it's about perception itself. Who defines it, who controls it, and who decides when it changes? If you've got thoughts on this, drop them in the comments. I want to see where you stand. If this breakdown made you rethink the bigger picture, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives like this. And if this got you thinking, share it with someone who needs to see the full angle.